The countdown continues for Iowa football as we get ready here. It is game week. Some concerns brewing in the Iowa running back room. What's that running back room going to look like come Saturday? We will get into that. Plus, former Hawkeye tight end Brandon Myers joins us all today. Locked On Hawkeyes.
You are Locked On Hawkeyes, your daily podcast on the Iowa Hawkeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, welcome in. I'm Trent Condon, and this is the Locked On Hawkeyes Podcast. Thanks for making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. We're available wherever you find podcasts. You can also watch us on YouTube. While you're there, 5-star reviews. That's what we're looking for on the podcast side. Or just hit subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. It helps us get in front of more Hawkeye fans. Today's episode of the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. We open things up today with a look at an interesting spot. We talked a lot yesterday on the program about the running back position and the surprise at the top of the depth chart with Kamari Moulton. Kamari Moulton, a freshman a year ago, came on, played a little bit against Penn State. We saw glimpses of him throughout the course of the season. A lot of questions today at the press conference from Kirk Ferentz. We'll talk a little bit more about that before Brandon Myers, former Hawkeye tight end, joins us a little bit later on. But we mentioned yesterday that Kamari Moulton has been banged up. He's been banged up at camp. And at this point in time, the anticipation, though he is the listed starter, though he's going to start and play in the game, this is not going to be some kind of bell cow situation. Now, I don't think that'd be the case regardless with the depth of the running back room, but the depth takes a little bit of a hit. We'll get into a little bit of that momentarily here. Back to Moulton, though, for a moment. He's still working his way through an injury, not 100% at this point in time. The hope is they're going to be able to get through this game without even not needing to get him the ball, 15, 20 times, anything like that. But you obviously want to get him involved. One thing and what Iowa is trying to do, you go back to one of the conversations from earlier this year with the new offensive coordinator, Tim Lester, and he was talking a little bit about Kamari Moulton, one of the reasons that they like it, and he equated it to Aaron Jones. And there was a particular play that Aaron Jones, a former Packer running back, ran so well, and it was a huge part of what they did and their offensive identity. Remember, we're talking about a running back position that is different than really anything that we've seen in Iowa City in Kirk Ferentz's 26 years there. What they're looking to do in this scheme is different than what we're used to with the inside-outside blocking scheme of the past. Now, Leshon Williams has been banged up. Kaleb Johnson still working his way through a few different things, and that's the next thing. So you have two guys at the top of the depth chart. Your number one and number two running backs are banged up. Leshon Williams has been back at practice, but still not close to 100%, and certainly probably has not put in the work that they would hope at this point in time. We mentioned the Moulton injury that has been brought up by Kirk Ferentz already, so you have that component. Number 3 on the depth chart is Kaleb Johnson, and there's questions. Kaleb Johnson, why is he number 3? We talked about, obviously, when you look at that size combination that he has with the speed, he is a ridiculous athlete, but it continues to be with Kaleb Johnson about doing the little things inside the Iowa football program, and how early are we going to see him on Saturday? I also found this interesting. So the number 4 running back, I think most of us would assume, would be Jazion Patterson. Patterson had the big run a year ago on the short yardage play against Iowa State, ran that inside the 10-yard line, and had a big play in that one of the few offensive explosive plays that Iowa had in that football game, and really over the course of the season. But that aside, Jazion Patterson didn't come up. And Jazion Patterson, what are we going to see, if anything, from him coming up on Saturday? Because Kirk Ferentz, again, didn't say his name, yet he brought up Max White, walk-on running back, comes from a great football family there in Cedar Rapids. But still, to hear his name come up, I think was a little bit eye-opening. And maybe, just maybe, something to keep an eye on Saturday. This is not reporting news. Nothing like that. Just, again, something to keep an eye on Saturday. Another thing in that running back room that I have heard is there is a real possibility that we could see a true freshman on the football field coming up at the running back position on Saturday. Now, a lot of people would maybe going back to spring or even back to signing day last December, anticipate that guy would be Brevin Dahl. Brevin Dahl, though, has been practicing the wide receiver position and been moved out there, and that's where he's been, along with TJ Washington, working out in that position. We see Washington showed up as one of the backups at wide receiver. No, Xavier Williams, the big bowling ball running back from Indianapolis, he would be the guy out of the true freshman that would likely play on Saturday if they need to go that deep. Keep an eye on this. You got two guys at the top of the depth chart that are banked up. Your next two running backs, at least that we anticipate, Kaleb Johnson, Jazzion Patterson, some questions. We'll just put it that way in that one. It's a concern, but I think with the depth that they have built at this position, they're going to be fine. And if they're not fine because of this on Saturday, we are into a whole new set of issues for this Iowa football team. What are the realistic expectations for Saturday offensively? Look, we know the defense will be outstanding. They're really coming into this one, and certainly against an opponent like Illinois State, you don't anticipate that there's going to be any major concerns with what's going to happen defensively. We've talked about building up depth at defensive line. Do they have enough guys? After Jeremiah Pittman as the backup number 3 defensive tackle, is somebody else going to be able to step in and at least become a rotational piece for them this season? Out of those backups at the defensive end position, who's the guy that's going to be able to put their hand on the ground on third down and generate some pressure? Who are those kind of players? We've hit on all that. The depth that has been built at cornerback, there just aren't any major concerns for a game like this against Illinois State there. Offensively, though, it still remains. I like what I continue to hear about this running game and what the offensive line is. Another thing Kirk Ferentz mentioned today, and I thought this was a really important part, talking about the offensive line. We know that is Kirk Ferentz's specialty. That's how he cut his teeth and how he became the football coach. Really, all of his jobs came because of what he did building offensive lines. And he mentioned the versatility that they had. Now, I maintained for the last couple of seasons, they've basically been out there trying to play with 5 interior offensive linemen. And you saw how well it worked. Not good. Mason Richmond can be an adequate left tackle at the Big Ten. I don't think he's going to be elite. I don't think he's going to be a guy that's a first team or anything like that at the left tackle. I do believe that Mason Richmond will be playing at the next level. And he'll be a guy likely, probably 5th, 6th round draft pick, something like that. He'll bump inside. He'll become an interior guy. And I think he'll be a very good one. Because of necessity, though, he has to play left tackle for this Iowa football team. Jennings Dunker a year ago when he was playing at nearly 350 pounds, again, probably would have been better inside. He's trimmed down. He's down to 316, if you heard him during the little clip that they put up on Twitter the other day on the Iowa football website as he was mic'd up for a practice. But he has trimmed down. And you can see that a little bit just in the little glimpse that we got going back to Kids Day in August. Is there just another twitch there, a little more quickness for Jennings Dunker. We know what a powerful guy he can be out there at the right tackle position. But again, that versatility. Tate Pieper is a guy, that can play a multitude of positions, and it looks like he is going to be the heir apparent inside at the center position, and they're excited about what his future is going to be. This is a guy that was an undersized true freshman a year ago, and he was already starting to pop. Now, as he adds weight coupled with what he's been able to do, you're excited. But that versatility, that ability to have a bunch of guys. You got Nick DeYoung, who's honestly never been great, but a backup that has starting experience. You got him. You got other guys that have started before. We've talked about Tyler Ellsbury, who's now listed as a backup at the guard position. But Kirk mentioned that he can play all 5 positions on that offensive line. That kind of versatility you just don't get very often at the Big Ten level, and they have that with Tyler Ellsbury. So they're really going and talking about going 8 deep here. Not only that, but you have the young guys that continue to develop, and I still hear some good things about some of those young guys. It's an exciting time because this offensive line has just been so bad. And though it was better a year ago than it was in 2022 and even 2021, they still need to take another step forward this year. And I think a pretty big step if I was going to get to where we want them to be. We continue here at Locked On Hawkeyes. Brandon Myers joins the show. Plus, Connor Stallion. Oh, yeah, you remember it. We got an Iowa connection for you. We'll hear from the Iowa tight end, Brandon Myers, as he is honored as an ANF Wall of Honoree. We'll talk about that with Brandon coming up here as we continue. This is Locked On Hawkeyes. Today's episode of the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast is brought to you by 5-Hour Energy. Grab a 5-Hour Energy shot to stay alert to watch all your favorite games. Or If you stay up late to see that intense overtime game, take a 5-hour energy shot in the morning and you can get your day started right. 5-hour energy shots give you the feeling of alertness and energy you need to get in the zone. With zero sugar and a convenient portable size, it's the perfect pick-me-up for getting stuff done. The 5-hour energy website has flavors galore like watermelon, tropical burst, grape berry, and more. There's a flavor for everyone. Try them all. On the site, you can even have the option to build your own 12 or 24 pack. You choose the flavors and it's delivered right to your door. If you go to 5hourenergy.com, that's the number 5hourenergy.com. Get some 5-hour energy product today. You can use the promo code. It's Locked On CFB. Locked On CFB. That'll give you 20% off your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. Again, the code is not good on subscription orders. Go to 5hourenergy.com today. That's 5hourenergy.com. Trent Condon back with you here on the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Thanks for making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. Hey, also want to let you know we got a lot of great things happening here on the Locked On Podcast Network, including with college football being back. The Locked On College Football Podcast kicks off the action with the season preview. We got you covered. Big 10, ACC, Big 12, you name it, we got it here, all from our stable of college experts. And all you have to do is subscribe to the Locked On College Football Podcast. Who has a chance to make the playoff? What teams will cause chaos in their new conferences? Everything you need to know all in one place. Make sure to follow and subscribe to the Locked On College Football Podcast, all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Brandon Myers, Prairie City Monroe Mustangs, onto the Hawkeyes, onto the NFL, and Brandon joins us. Brandon, my name is Ken Miller. My partner is Trent Condon. Thanks for coming on, Brandon. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me, guys.
No, appreciate you coming on. Congratulations on that. And I guess we should start. You are now part of what's become Tight End U, right? And you obviously played a role in that. What is it about Iowa that keeps churning out one tight end after another?
That's a great question, and I've been asked that quite a bit. And I just think it's the quality of people that Iowa brings in, and the quality coaches. You know, the kids buy in to what the coaches are telling them, and if you do that, you got a chance to be pretty successful.
So your story is an interesting one because, well, until the final day of the recruiting cycle, you were on your way up to UNI. Great basketball player. Remember watching you play here in Des Moines at the state tournament and had some good runs with PCM. Take us down the path and what eventually made you an Iowa Hawkeye.
That's another question I've been asked quite a bit. So it was quite a ride. Obviously, when I started, I was playing quite a bit of basketball, so I wasn't really sure about the football route. And then as things got down to the end there, I realized that football might be my ticket. So I was still a small kid. I think I weighed probably 250, 220, something like that. So I wasn't really on Iowa's radar. I was, but I wasn't, type of thing. There was a couple other guys that they were waiting on. So I just decided that I was gonna take some visits, and I went to UNI, and I had a great time. But at the end of the day, I always wanted to be a Hawkeye. I think a lot of people understood that I decommitted from UNI,
Sure,
to get a chance to play for the Hawkeyes. So it really just took Coach Ferentz getting on the phone, talking to my mom and dad, and after that, it was pretty much a done deal. It was really just, then it was up to me to tell UNI, and that was probably the hardest thing because I had a lot of respect for them guys in that program. So I think it all worked out in the end for everyone. So it was a good deal.
and then on to the NFL, and you had a long career in the NFL. I mean, anytime you can get past 4 or 5 years in the NFL, you're doing something. You did. I want to ask you about Oakland. Obviously, the team is now in Las Vegas. We see the fan base in Oakland. They're different, but they're passionate. What was playing in Oakland like, Brandon Myers?
It was one of the things, growing up in Iowa, not really knowing. The only time we really watched the Raiders was when they'd be playing the Chiefs. So going out there and being introduced to their history, their very rich history, and their fan base, I have nothing but great things to say about all them fans and all the people out there. It was definitely an eye-opening experience, coming from Iowa City, to Oakland. But it taught me a lot. I definitely had to grow up a little faster, living in a big city. But I had nothing but great memories. The only thing I wish we'd be a little better. We weren't that good, but I had quite a bit of good experiences from it.
Your final season, 2008 at Iowa, you guys had an outstanding end of the year, really put it together at the end, dominated South Carolina in the bowl game, and you guys are rolling after that win against Penn State and the walk-off victory there. You guys were playing as well as about anybody across the country at that point in time. When you look at what happened the year after you moved on, though, in 2009, did you wish you had another year of eligibility or maybe one of the COVID years?
Yeah, you never know. But you never know what could have happened. But, it was pretty easy there. Sean Green made a lot of guys look good.
Mm-hmm.
Made me look good. He made me look good quite a bit. So, no, it was definitely a fun ride there. And it was definitely fun the next year, being in the NFL locker room, and I kind of had some bragging rights. Sure. Gallery and I were, wearing our Hawkeye gear all the time. It was fun. It was definitely a fun time.
Hey, speaking of that time, you played a lot with a lot of great tight ends there, but Tony Moeaki, a guy that was a very much heralded recruit coming in, battled injuries. When you saw him when he was healthy, we hear the stories all the time. What was the apex of Tony Moeaki if the injury bug wouldn't have hit him?
I mean, he'd be up there, right there with, some of the better tight ends that are playing right now. For someone to have all the attributes and all the physical tools, but at the end of the day, got very unlucky a few times, and we're playing football. Just kind of one of those things that happened. But Tony had a good career, and he'll always be known as a great Hawkeye tight end, and he won a Super Bowl. I mean, that's pretty amazing. So, I learned a lot of things from him, even though he was younger than me. We learned to work together, and we're still good friends to this day. So, him and I have a lot of good memories together.
What does Kirk Ferentz mean to you, Brandon?
Kirk Ferentz means a lot. I think about this often. Coach Ferentz, and not only me, he's given so many guys opportunities to push yourself, to put you in the right spot. I wouldn't have a lot of what I have today, and the experiences and the places I've been and the people I've met if it wasn't for Coach Ferentz and the coaches at Iowa. Not just Coach Ferentz, from top to bottom. The entire organization is top notch, and I owe a lot to everyone, and especially Coach Ferentz. So.
You'll join the Wall of Honor with the ANF, something that Hayden Fry began almost 40 years ago to bring just a thought to the people across the country with what Iowa football was back in the 80s and the farm crisis was happening at the time. And this list is pretty incredible. Jared DeVries, Bruce Nelson, Casey Wigman, Robert Gallery, Dallas Clark, Chad Greenway, Aaron Campman, Matt Kroll, Marshall Yanda, Tony Moeaki, Brian Bulaga. In 2024, it is you, Brandon Myers. What is ANF for you?
Yeah, that's quite a list. Yeah, holy cow! I'm definitely humbled by hearing some of them names. It just kind of epitomizes the school and where you come from, where I came from. Just the ANF it's the hard work, the grit, the respect. It's just really just the little things that sometimes I think people kind of overlook, or you get caught in your day to day. It's really what the foundation of Iowa is in our country, really, if you think about it. So definitely honored to be on that wall. And, growing up in a small town and being around those type of people every day, you didn't think anything else. If you didn't do those things, you didn't fit in. So it's definitely a blessing, and I'm very excited and honored by this award.
I want to ask you about one of your former teammates who's now going to work with Gary Dolphin, analyzing the Hawkeye podcast game. What kind of job do you think Pat Anger is going to do? Was there ever a point that, do you remember, think back to when Pat Anger's in the locker room, that there's a guy who's going to get into broadcasting when his football career is over? We think he's going to be great. But your thoughts on Pat Anger?
First of all, I've never met a nicer guy. He's just one of those guys that brightens up the room, makes everyone smile. When I heard he got the job, I kind of look at the ESPN, what they're doing now with McAfee, and I was like, man, that's pretty smart, because he's going to put some energy back into that and have some young fans like, oh, that's Pat. You're hearing stories of Pat. For him, sometimes, and just to kind of get to know him, and I think he's going to do some great things with him. And I'll definitely be one of those guys. If I can't watch it, I'll be listening to the radio to see what he has to say.
We can't wait. Good stuff. Well, congratulations on the honors. Trent just went down the list of names that preceded you, and you're going to join. Got to be quite an honor for you and your family. Started on your grandfather's farm. The pride of Prairie City, Monroe, a Mustang. Brandon Myers. Brandon, thanks for jumping on with us. We appreciate it. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy the recognition. Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Yep, good to talk to you. Brandon Myers, as we catch up with the former Hawk, and pretty long NFL career. What, 8-9 years, I think?
Yeah, put it together.
Good for him.
Finished up in Tampa for the last couple of seasons. Yep. Had a pretty good, nice contract there. And Iowa Farm Bureau is the presenting sponsor of the A&F Plaza at Kinnick Stadium, and he'll be honored. That is quite the list.
Oh, my God.
Thanks again to Brandon Myers for joining us here on the show today, and great stuff out of him. And a lot of great play for him, and on to the NFL and that long line of tight ends, and quite the list, as we mentioned there on the piece. We continue here, Locked On Hawkeyes. The big story from a year ago in college football. Yes, it was Michigan winning a national championship, but Connor Stallions became at the forefront of it. A new documentary on Netflix talks about Connor Stallions getting a game ball for beating the Iowa Hawkeyes. We'll talk about that when we come back. This is Locked On Hawkeyes. Today's episode of the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast is brought to you by Ultimate Football Head Coach. Hey, Locked On Hawkeye fans, I just want to take a moment and give you a heads up on a brand new mobile game. I think you're going to love it as much as I do. Ultimate College Football HC. In this amazing game and simulation, you get to step into the shoes of a head coach and lead your college football program to glory. Can you imagine actually being the head coach of the Hawkeyes? From recruiting players, hiring coaching staff, to overseeing training camps and handing out school scholarships, you control every crucial detail of your program. It's all in your hands. Will you be able to handle the pressure? Here's what I really love about the game. You're responsible for calling offensive plays during the games. Your strategy will not only determine the success of your football season, it'll shape the future and legacy of your program. Ultimate College Football HC is completely free, has no ads, and is 100% playable offline. You can play on the go, as you go, when you want, wherever you want. And of course, we have a special offer for you on Locked On Hawkeyes. For you Hawkeye fans out there, use the promo code LOCKEDONCFB, all caps, Locked On CFB, inside the game store to receive a free boost to your program. Make sure to take advantage of this perk, as it'll get your team off to a strong start. Just download the game by visiting ultimate-cfb.com. That's ultimate-cfb.com, or look it up on the app stores. Ultimate College Football HC. Begin your coaching legacy today. Today's episode of the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast is also brought to you by Ibotta. Well, as we make our way through the summer months, sandals, sunscreen, snacks for the kids, what do these all have in common? Probably buying a ton of them again this summer. But don't stress out about the cost. Use Ibotta and get cash back on all the purchases when you stock up on your summer essentials. Ibotta is a free app that lets you earn cash back every time you shop. Earn on hundreds of items, from groceries, beauty supplies, even toys. so you can make sure you're beating inflation no matter what you're purchasing. The average Ibotta user earns $256 per year. That could cover the cost of a big shopping trip, maybe a flight you've been eyeing, or a fancy dinner that you've been craving. Other apps give you points that don't amount to much. With Ibotta, you earn cash back that you can withdraw to your bank account, PayPal, or even gift cards. Simply add offers in the app, upload your receipt, voila, the money is yours. It's time you joined over 50 million users who use Ibotta to earn cash back every time they shop. Right now, Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 just for trying Ibotta by using the code LOCKEDONCollege when you register. Just go to the App Store or Google Play Store and download the free Ibotta app to start earning cash back. Use the promo code LOCKEDONCollege. That's Ibotta in the Google Play or App Store, IBOTTA. And make sure you use the code, once again, LOCKEDONCollege. That's LOCKEDONCollege for Ibotta. Trent Condon back with you one final time here on the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Get ready for the game against Illinois State. So excited for this one and excited about this football season. My optimism meter is higher than normal. I've said in the past, every day, I think you know this, I, as a fan, am not the most optimistic sort. I guess it's been decades of futility for the teams that I root for professionally. My favorite teams, I'm a Twins fan in baseball. I'm a Bears fan in the NFL. So, well, I was in kindergarten in 85, saw 2 championships when I was 7 and 11 in the World Series with the Twins. That was a long time ago. This just did, since I saw championships. And I think everybody listening knows, obviously, about the Hawkeyes and the tumultuous nature of being a Hawkeye fan. I got optimism for this team. I really think that it still can click. I have hope that it's going to happen this year. I think the Kirk Ferentz suspension is going to be something that is going to be even more motivation for this team. Now, Kirk Ferentz talked about that today, that he doesn't want to use it as motivation for this game. That's not how they are. It's a very even-keeled program. They don't get too high. They don't get too low. And that's one of the reasons we've seen some of those great bounce-back performances from this program, bouncing back after some devastating losses and come back a week later and look incredibly good, pulling off some shockers afterwards. That's just what you get in the nature of this one, just that steady presence that you get from Kirk Ferentz and this football program. But interesting with the Netflix release of Connor Stallion's documentary, now heavily slanted to the Connor Stallion side of things. You definitely get that if you saw any of this one. But one of the most interesting notes and something that dominated college football a season ago was that he received a game ball in the 2022 game in Kinnick Stadium. Now, it was the first time in 17 years that Michigan had beat Iowa inside of Kinnick Stadium. Maybe something to be said there. Michigan got out to a 20-0 lead. Iowa scored in the fourth quarter to cut it to 27. Look, Iowa was not good enough in that football game. And really, as we saw in the last 2 games against Michigan, last couple of games against Michigan, they just have not been able to do enough with that offensive line that we talked about at the top of the show to be able to compete with the team that was built like that. But certainly was interesting to see that one. Got a game ball for disconcerting signals. Did it take that much? Probably not. But hey, we get a little local angle to this big story of college football from a year ago. Thought that was an interesting little nugget. We're going to continue to break things down. We still have to make our season prediction for the season. I will get to that too this week. We're going to have some fun with over-unders. Now, player props are not available for in-state players in the state of Iowa. We're going to open up the Kinnick Casino and give you some numbers for this football season. We'll see if you want to go over or under some yardage, touchdown totals, and a few other things that we got picked up for you. It's a busy week, getting closer and closer to kickoff. Can't wait for it, and can't wait to walk inside Kinnick Stadium once again for the season. Thanks for making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. Now, go check out Locked On College Football and the Locked On College Football Podcast. From NIL deals to the never-ending conference realignment rumors, like UConn and the Big 12, Spencer McLaughlin gets you ready for an exciting season on the gridiron. You can find the link to Locked On College Football in the description, so you don't even need to search. All part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We got you covered on the Hawkeye front. We'll talk to you again tomorrow. Until then, go Hawks.